you believe the Indian government has dropped the ball? Plain and simple.
Well, Rahul, first of all, we must acknowledge what Qatar's role has been in radicalizing Muslim youth across the world. And we must also acknowledge the role of Qatar in sponsoring Salafist Islamist ideology.
That's okay, but
Also,
how is that related to this matter? Let's first address this
I'll
issue. I
explain
want to
why.
ask you a direct question. All of that, of course, we'll come to. My question here is, did the Indian government drop the ball?
Well, see, first of all, as other panelists have also pointed out, these 8 people were working in a private firm and working in private capacity. Now, the government of India, as a securer and a defender of its citizens, has put out the statement that it made, the MEA made publicly, because it's a matter of 8 Indian citizens. And I think to that extent, the government of India has taken the right course. But at the same time, we must absolutely call out Qatar for the role that it has played generally in disrupting
No, I'll come to
India.
that, but I just want to draw your attention to the manner in which the United States, for example, pursued the release of some of its citizens who have periodically found themselves in trouble either in the UAE or in Saudi. They've been able to secure the release of their citizens. The British have had problems with some of these countries. We know that perhaps they look at the law, other aspects from a different lens than other people do. So you've had situations in the past, but we've seen that while those citizens have gone through immense torture, eventually their governments came and bailed them out. Here I'm asking you a simple question.
Okay,
Should
get
or
it.
could
I
the
got
government
it.
have done
Let
more?
me respond to this. Rahul, yes, you're absolutely right that other governments have used their leverage when it comes to issues like this. And India at the moment certainly carries a lot of weight in global politics. It has not only the economic might but also the geopolitical might as of today, and government must certainly use that leverage. So far we haven't seen, yes, you're right that they have been in jail for last 1 year and the government of India hasn't pushed it enough. But i think uh, but i think the government of India certainly, because as you rightly pointed out, that the trade is hugely actually skewed in favor of Qatar. And that itself is a problem. That itself is something that the government must look into. Why has Qatar received so much leverage, so much weightage in our geopolitics when India has several options, several alternatives? In fact, Qatar has got a long rope in the last 1 year. Let's keep this discussion restricted to this particular case. In the last 1 year itself, the government of India could have used many levers. The government of India could have used many cards, whether it was trade or whether it was calling out it on its role in terrorism, or whether the role of Al Jazeera, Zakir Naik, hosting. So there were n number of occasions when the government of India could have questioned and could have cornered Qatar, and it did not, unfortunately. So yes, absolutely, we must question the government on this. The government should did not rise up to the occasion in the last 1 year, but it's high time now that the death penalty has been announced. It's high time that the government of India takes it up with all its rigor and also its might.
Well, let me tell you, viewers, that the ball now is really in the Emir's court because only he can actually issue a pardon. And to that extent, we're in a bit of a fix because 8 lives have been adjudged, viewers, as spies. Spies for whom? Israel. We all know Qatar's absolute Israelophobia. It exhibits it, has a problem with it. We know this. It houses the Hamas. And that kind of alleged charge is going to weigh very heavily. It shouldn't have even come to this. The government should have been more proactive. Unfortunately, even when it comes to Canada, it has been reactive. Comes to Britain, it's reactive on the Khalistan issue. Protests happen, our embassies get targeted, then we wake up. This should not be happening. If you have clout, if you have been able to now exert or flex muscles across the globe, then these countries should be taking you seriously, especially if they think of you as strategic partners or trade partners. But that's not happening, viewers. And therefore, I want to come to Sushil Pandit. Sushil Pandit, do we over-romanticize our ties with Gulf countries? Are our ties with Middle East countries subject to certain limitations? And what are these limitations? Let's get to the bottom of the issue. Let's get to the skeletons in the cupboard.
Thank you, Rahul, for having me on your show. I think it's time for some plain speak. This is an unmistakable snub to our diplomacy and our political leadership. In fact, more than that, Qatar has humiliated us in the international arena. You do not share the charges. You do not conduct the trial in public. You do not arbitrarily hand over death sentence to 8 senior ex-soldiers from this country unless you are out to rub our nose in mud. Qatar has done this second time, because the first time we capitulated when they raised their finger on Nupur Sharma issue and we tamely surrendered. So Qatar is out to again make an example out of us. I'm sure they will not hang these 8 gentlemen from India. They will not, they dare not. But they have done this to extract some concessions out of us. They have done this to force us to change course on certain issues, and we will in time, in good time, get to know what is it that we had to do in order to save these 8 gentlemen. But I agree with you. There is no over-romanticizing or exaggerating the fact that India has some huge clout or some huge leverage with these countries. We've been doing their bidding. We've been unilaterally offering them a lot of room, a lot of flexibility in our policy, consistently without getting much in return. We have been mollycoddling Palestinian issue without getting a reciprocity on Kashmir. We've been overtly dependent on them as energy suppliers without realizing that we are the second largest energy importer in this world, and therefore that gives us legitimate clout which we have never used. We have treated this as some kind of a weakness. It is about time we actually put our so-called clout to work and not let these tin pot Islamic dictators turn our foreign policy on its head or our reputation rubbed in mud. It is about time we showed our spine of steel to them.